Okay, so throughout your career, you've raised funds and awareness for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, an organization that seeks to help individuals and businesses who are being criminally persecuted because of the comic books they read, make, buy, or sell in support of First Amendment rights. What, in your opinion, is the role of artists in raising awareness for social justice and societal issues?
I think those are two incredibly different questions, because one part of it is, let's talk about the First Amendment, and the other part of it is, what is the role of the artist in improving the world that they're in, making it a better place? And I think the role of the artist is, it is the job of an artist to leave the world more interesting than they found it, and perhaps to make it better, perhaps to change the way that people think about things. You improve it if you can, but I think that's what all of us should be doing, whether we're artists or not. In terms of the First Amendment and in terms of the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, it's one of those things where I was fascinated by the fact that you could have words, and words were fairly safe. Words in books back then were fairly safe, and pictures were fairly safe. They could hang in art galleries, and the moment that you put them together, you got police raids. And suddenly you're bailing people who own comic shops out of jail, and you're paying for expert witnesses and lawyers to try and get somebody who's drawn a zine with scary stuff in it from obscenity prosecutions. And it just seemed to me like that was obscene. It was, occasionally it was my stuff they would go after, but not often. I remember being amused and horrified when I learned that the chief of police in Jacksonville, Florida, had turned up in a comic shop to tell them that unless they took my Death, the High Cost of Living, which had an 8-page thing on safe sex and how to avoid sexual diseases, during the course of which a condom is put on a banana, that is as rude as it got, she would be closing them down. And so the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund lawyer, they contacted the Legal Defense Fund, the lawyer wrote to the Jacksonville Police Department explaining the concept of the First Amendment, and they did not turn up again. Having said that was, 20 years ago, and these days, I suspect they'd be back with a bulldozer. I mean, we are in a world right now in which, on the one hand, there has never been more access to books, to graphic novels, to the written word, to ideas, and on the other hand, libraries and librarians and teachers and the people who get you the books and the comics have never been under more attack, and it's a very strange place to be right now. And for that, I will carry on supporting libraries, I will carry on fundraising, and I will carry on doing what I can to raise awareness. This morning I read an article about a region in Texas where they took 10 books off the library shelves and were ordered by a judge for First Amendment reasons to put them back, and so are planning to close down the library to avoid having to put these 10 books back. And when you learn that one of these books was about how the KKK is not a good thing, And that's what they're challenging and getting upset about. I think the book was called something like The KKK, The Making of a Terrorist Organization. And there are people who are upset enough about the characterization of the Ku Klux Klan as a terrorist organization that they are going to close down the libraries in that area so that nobody gets to encounter dangerous ideas like that.
One could take a leap that the books aren't being read.